The anti-SJWs are back. The libtards are being brutally destroyed. Cringe, blue-haired, red-haired, big red feminists are being shoved to the bottom of the sewer where they belong in Minecraft. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Tom Dark channel. I'm your host, Tom Dark, and today we're going to be talking about the internet and the shifting tides of culture. Now, for those of you who don't know, I do live streams on this channel 4 or 5 times a week. I do live streams, just basically talking about, current events on the internet, hanging out with friends, playing some Fortnite, which is the greatest game of all time, and if you disagree, then you're subhuman and should be subjugated to some kind of work camp, some kind of internment camp. If you don't like Fortnite, I have no respect for you as a human being. In fact, you're not even a human being. Anyhow, one thing I do on my streams a lot is I have a callers segment where people from the viewers can call into my Discord server. They can get on voice call with me. We can just have a chat about whatever they want to talk about. Now, many of these people who get on will say things to the effect of, I didn't expect to be pulled in, or what, or hi, I didn't have anything to say. That's about like 60% of people that call in, I would say. But the other 40%, actually probably like 30%, have something funny or worthwhile to say. And one thing I've noticed a lot of people asking me about lately is how I feel about the shifting tides of the internet. If any of you have taken the temperature lately of the online landscape, you've probably noticed that things have changed quite a bit. Whereas a few years ago, it was kind of like totally off limits to be edgy or be homophobic or be racist or make certain jokes in any context. Now it seems like it's all the rage. It seems like as long as you're making jokes in that capacity, you're about to blow up and get famous. Now you might get banned from YouTube, but there's alternative platforms like Rumble and Kick to support your living where, people like Leafy is here, Aiden Ross, Ice Poseidon are going, even XQC, who I would say is definitely not that edgy. He's a pretty safe creator. XQC decided to go to Kick, and he signed, this is huge news, one of the biggest contracts in history. I think it was like $100 million for 2 years, which a lot of people are saying is like more than what LeBron James gets paid. Now, I don't know the details of that contract. Considering it's non-exclusive, I'm shocked at the amount of money he's getting, but I would suspect that given it's Kick, probably a certain amount of that is going towards gambling streams. It's probably money for him to gamble in the casino rather than money he's just getting paid. Or it's just money he's being paid for gambling in the casino, which we already know. Aiden Ross was negotiating contracts for like $2 million a month for gambling sponsorships from, I think it was Roobet, and then he was like negotiating with Stake, and he was telling Stake that like 1.3 mil a month or something was not enough for him to gamble on their site. So clearly, there's a lot of money in this, but there's a lot of money in these alternate platforms. And getting back on topic a bit, clearly the temperature on the internet has changed. I mean, you go on Leafy's Here's timeline, like a few years ago, it was wild that he was going after Pokemon as much as he was, right? A few years ago, people were raging about the fact that he made like 10 videos with her in the title and thumbnail, right? Even though the videos weren't really about her, they were just like clickbait. But now if you go to his Twitter, I can't even read off the things he's saying. I mean, the #1 tweet on his account, we'll have to censor this, I guess. The #1 tweet on his account says gay people. The next tweet I see on his account says being gay is worse than being racist. Then he says lesbians are okay only if they're hot. Nah, never mind, changed my mind. And the thing is, a lot of these tweets are like, if you know anything about Leafy, I would guess that he doesn't sincerely believe this. I would guess he's not sincerely pushing this kind of ideology. I don't think he has any kind of real political bend. I think he just wants attention on the internet and he wants people to talk about him. And clearly that is working. Whether you think he's being sincere or not, you go to his account and all of his tweets are like, 30,000, 27,000, 74,000, 30,000, 50,000 likes. They're blowing up. He's going viral, and it's driving a lot of attention towards his Rumble streams, which is on an alt-tech platform, and he's getting a few thousand viewers there, which is certainly decent considering the fact he's banned on every other platform and can't even like use YouTube ever again, can't use Twitch ever again. This is going viral, whereas a few years ago, I feel like you would have been suspended for this from Twitter, you would have had your bank account canceled, and you probably would have been pushed into a sewer by someone and had a milkshake thrown on you like what they did to Richard Spencer. Not that, what happened to Richard Spencer was totally unjust. I think it was pretty funny, but regardless of that, I just think it's clear that the tides of the internet are shifting, the temperature has changed, and it seems like edgy content in almost any way is being rewarded. Leafy is blowing up. It's not even that funny what he's saying. What's so funny about it is just the fact that you can't say that stuff in current day, and yet here he is saying all of it, saying the most wild thing possible, spewing the most, crazy opinion possible. And a lot of people are resonating with that. They're appreciative of the fact that he's just being edgy, needlessly so maybe, but he's being edgy needlessly, and he's blowing up for it. A lot of people like that, and that seems to apply to a lot of these other content creators as well. You guys know I'm no fan of Sneeko. I'm not a huge fan of Aiden Ross either. I don't really like Fresh and Fit, or Andrew Tate is another example. There's kind of this new wave of like right-wing creators kind of that's coming out. I wouldn't say it's like totally right-wing, but there are right-wing talking points from them, especially Sneeko, especially Fresh and Fit. Andrew Tate is like less explicitly political in that way, but he clearly doesn't like socialism or communism at the very least. He doesn't like the far left. And I think you'd be hard pressed to ally him with like progressive policies. But there's clearly this kind of new wave, of this new coalition of like the anti-breadtube. Now, what is breadtube, you may be asking? Well, breadtube is like this genre of video essayists that are all like leftists, they're socialists, they're communists, they're far left at very least, you know, more left than the average liberal on the sort of the scale there, right? The Overton window or whatever. More left than the average liberal. Progressive social policies, obviously, but also extremely progressive economic policy in terms of like redistribution of wealth, high taxes, eat the rich or whatever, you know, that famous shirt that Hassan Piker likes to wear, right? That kind of thing is going on in that situation. And you notice a lot of that going on around like, you know, the end of the anti-SJW commentary community era was like 2017, I would say, maybe 2018 at the very latest. And then breadtube came in and they blew up. People like ContraPoints, H Bomber Guy. And then you also saw, you know, reflective of breadtube, even like explicitly non-political people, popular commentary channels were very like pro-feminist. The people they like to make fun of were actually right-wingers, like crazy right-wingers, or the people they thought were funny to make fun of. And look no further than people like Cody Ko or Drew Gooden or Danny Gonzalez. I wouldn't say that these are people who are explicitly political creators, but I think, you know, it kind of goes without saying that they're all like against certain types of jokes. They don't with certain types of comedy. They're very socially conscious. I wouldn't say they're necessarily pro cancel culture, but they're not really against it. And they're just very safe creators. They're very safe, easy to watch guys. They're non-controversial. They're all just like the brown hair white dude, right? The brown hair white dude libtard, which is totally fine. That's totally cool. And I've seen a decent amount of Cody Ko videos that I've like liked, and the same goes for Drew Gooden. I guess Eddie Burback is probably another example. You know, they're all like chill with Hassan Piker. Or Jarvis Johnson, that's another decent one, although he's obviously not a brown-haired white dude, but they all just fall into a kind of archetype of man. And if you go on their videos tab and you see what they're making fun of and talking about, TikTok's worst podcast is the latest Jarvis Johnson video, and they're talking about the Whatever podcast. And I'm not partial to the Whatever podcast. I don't like it. I don't listen to it. I don't like Fresh and Fit. I don't like all these red pill dudes, really. But there's clearly kind of a political perspective being espoused from someone like Jarvis Johnson, where it's like the kind of normal opinion on the internet, as of late anyway, the normal, middle of the road, like average, commonplace opinion it's not even like questioned. It's not even questioned like why that perspective is there. Is just being like, you know, at the very least a liberal, if not like a full-on kind of socialist, right? And everything that goes along with that in terms of their sense of humor, their culture, the people they hang out with. And now you're kind of seeing a reversal of that because these guys have dominated for so long, where you're being rewarded just for being needlessly edgy, right? You can be like the most unfunny fucker in the world. If you say racism good, you're probably going to be talked about. You're probably going to go viral because the internet has been so sanitized for the past, you know, 5-6 years. We haven't been seeing content like that. We haven't been seeing people say these outlandish things. So now obviously on the internet, where people love to react to stuff negatively, they get featured in these commentary channels. And ironically, you know, obviously it's like, I'm kind of a hypocrite in this regard because I cover stuff I don't like. But when you're someone like Jarvis Johnson, I don't need to single him out. He's a fine creator. I don't dislike him or whatever. But when you're someone, you know, like one of these commentary channels and you cover someone you don't like, you are going to hurt them from your own audience's perspective. Like, you're going to make them look bad. But realistically, those people were never going to like that podcast in the first place. You're not like changing hearts and minds with your content. You're just kind of reinforcing beliefs that were already there. And then you make them more famous because people talk about them. And then the Whatever podcast can find a newer audience. They can find a big audience. The Whatever podcast is a podcast I haven't even actually seen an episode of. I have never watched an entire episode of it. I've never clicked on one of their YouTube videos. The most I've ever done regarding the Whatever podcast, which for those who don't know is one of these, like, it's basically a Fresh and Fit knockoff. You have like a few guys on the show, then they bring like 10 OnlyFans girls on or whatever, and they talk to them. You've probably seen the very viral videos of their like hippopotamus girl that goes on. I don't know how else to describe her. I'm sorry if that sounds cruel or mean, but I feel like if I say hippopotamus chick, you guys probably all know who I'm talking about. I didn't even realize how famous Whatever was. If you go to their videos tab, okay, you go to popular. Their most popular video is actually years old, like 8 years old. So this channel's been around for a long time. But you go to the latest tab and their podcasts are blowing up. They're getting hundreds of thousands of views on these shows. If you go to the popular podcast tab, they're getting 2.3 million views, 1.9 million views, 1.5 million views. That's crazy. The channel has 4 million subscribers. I didn't even realize how famous they were. If you go to the Instagram Instagram account for this channel. They've got 239,000 followers. Their clips are all getting like, you know, hundreds of thousands of views. They are super famous. And the thing is, like, you can hate on them and criticize them all you want, but it's not like you're really like changing anyone's opinion by doing that. Realistically, you're just reinforcing the belief that your audience already had, which is like misogyny bad, racism bad, the stuff that, you know, these guys propagate is bad. Women are not property. Sexism is a bad thing, right? And obviously, like, I don't disagree with that perspective that much. But realistically, by covering them on your show, by making fun of them, here's who actually benefits. The viewer does not benefit. From an entertainment perspective, sure, but if you're actually invested in changing people's minds, you're not doing that by making these dumb commentary videos. What is happening is that the guy who made the video, the commentary channel in question, is getting rich from making videos talking about it. And then what's also happening is that the whatever podcast is blowing the hell up from it. And the same goes for Fresh and Fit. When you make a commentary video about them, you're not actually really hurting them. I mean, I guess maybe if someone has like never seen them before, you may be able to turn them off from going to the podcast by making a video calling them out for being dumb. Realistically, if you stumbled across their podcast anyway without having seen a commentary video about them, and you watch an episode of Fresh and Fit, you're probably not going to come away with like an overly positive opinion, unless you're actually like a complete sheep, which unfortunately there are a lot of people like that who just listen to whatever the next video on their next up is, and that becomes their opinion until the next one, which then changes their opinion. But realistically, like, I don't think you're changing that many people's minds with these videos. But because for the past 5 or 6 years, ever since like, you know, the quote unquote golden age of the internet, we've seen a lot of like very sanitized, very, hey, you don't say that, put your mask over your nose type of content creators. Now we're seeing kind of a flip. And this is something that I talked about a few years ago on my channel. If you look up Tom Dark Anti-SJW, you'll find a video titled The Next Anti-SJW Wave. It's a video that got a decent amount of views, and it was basically a look back at the past like 10 years of internet culture or so, kind of starting in like 2013, and talking about the fact that there used to be kind of this like right-wing or kind of like centrist to right-wing kind of pipeline going on, where a lot of people were very critical of social justice warriors, quote unquote, critical of like, you know, crazy feminist BuzzFeed content. And it was kind of the norm at the time for, you know, the average white dude, brown hair commentary people of the time to espouse anti-SJW, anti-social justice warrior opinions. The people back then who were pushing it were like iDubbbz, H3H3, those are two of the bigger ones. Then downstream from that, you had like slightly more explicitly political people like Shoe on Head, Sargon of Akkad, who was definitely more political. You had people like Armored Skeptic, Chris Raygun, and all these guys made like decently entertaining content, but it was from a certain political perspective where it was like not explicitly right-wing, but it was kind of anti-left-wing just because of the opinions they were espousing. And it was like, it was designed to be like anti-crazy left-wingers, because a lot of those guys were actually like liberals. But I think the effect that it had is that there was kind of like an anti-left-wing, anti-liberal culture on the internet, and that was kind of expected. And then that flipped because, you know, culture ebbs and flows, and, you know, everything's reactionary. So as the next election took place, everything flipped on its head because Trump was in office, right? And he's right-wing. Then the culture that became popular from that, the media that became popular from that, was criticizing the establishment, and that came in the place of like, you know, Noah Samson or whatever. And now we're seeing that flip again. And I'm not saying that I'm like a genius for saying the next anti-SJW wave is coming, because it's something like anyone could predict, right? Literally anyone who watches internet stuff for this long, or just watches culture in general, right, is going to be aware of this. They're going to be aware of like this ebb and flow that happens. And it's not even just an internet thing. It's just like a broader like TV thing as well. It's a broader art thing. So I'm not saying that I'm like some kind of genius for predicting that. But I will say that it seems like the video I made, it says a year ago, but this is December 23rd, 2021. So it's more like a year and a half ago. Everything from that video seems to have come to fruition. We've seen this whole arc from Sneeko, where he became super edgy and anti-feminist and anti, you know, OnlyFans. He blew up and then got banned. You saw it happen with a few other people. And I think what's going to happen next, basically, is that the next biggest social commentators of our time, the Drew Goodins, right, the Cody Coes of our era, they're not necessarily going to be right-wing, but they're not going to be left-wing. And a lot of people they're going to make fun of will be from a left-wing perspective. If you look at the comment section of that video I did, it's pretty interesting. One person said, "It's so weird hearing my teen years online being recounted in like ancient culture lore. Damn, what a time to be online." Yeah, that's kind of an effect you're gonna see as you get a little older. I'm at the age where I'm starting to feel old on the internet, and I'm only 20, but I guess probably part of it's because like I started doing internet stuff, YouTube stuff, when I was like 14. So, you know, I've been around for a little while. 6 years on the internet is like fucking 100 years. The pendulum is swinging back. It's going to be interesting to see how internet armchair politics evolves over the next few years. It definitely is swinging back as far as I can tell. I'm going to be really curious to see where things go. I think that the problem is that, you know, BreadTube just got too big. It got too incestuous. There was some infighting. And even beyond that, I think people just kind of got bored of hearing hearing the same stuff over and over. They got bored of being told like what jokes you can make and what's cool or not cool, right, to say. And so kind of the counterculture response to that, which is always how kids have been, right? Kids have always went into like punk rock, anti-establishment. It sounds cringe to say out loud like conservatism is the new punk rock, but in terms of like, you know, where the corporations are at and like who is allowed to make money and who's been allowed to like even say their opinion on the internet over the past few years, there's no denying in my mind that conservatives have been banned and censored all the time. There's no denying in my mind that, you know, whereas far left people have been allowed to say the, you know, most insane shit they can say possible, like Hassan Piker saying that America deserved 9/11, people denying genocides from the left, like the Armenian genocide being denied by the Young Turks, denying the, is it the Uyghur genocide in China, denying that. You know, there's a lot of genocide denial from the left as well, but that basically gets ignored because they're in corporate positions of power, because these companies in Silicon Valley are controlled by left-wingers. But now that's kind of changing, where you have a lot of these newer tech companies like Kick and Rumble. You know, they're not necessarily controlled by right-wing people, but they're more tolerant of right-wing beliefs, and so we're seeing kind of a new era come around. The anti-SJW beliefs never died out. It's just the average normal person who finds SJWs cringy also realize the vocal anti-SJWs are cringe as well. All of the people I know make fun of on Twitter constantly, but also find people like the Quartering to be cancer as well. They just don't care enough to be vocal about it, and all they do is share insane Twitter posts and laugh about it. Well, people do care enough to be vocal about it now, and I think we're gonna see a new era. The wave will definitely come, I believe that, but it will certainly not be anywhere near the size of SkepticTube, and it will get a lot more scrutiny and pushback than 2016. The modern day establishment and YouTube itself would never let something like that get as big of a foothold again. Well, the thing is, there is some truth to that. Like it is hard for, you know, more edgy people, more anti-establishment people to get a foothold now. But at the same time, you saw someone like Sneeko. I mean, his second channel, I think, started at like 100K when he was streaming. Within like 3 months, he went to 1 million subscribers from saying the stuff he was saying. Obviously, he got banned, and you know, a lot of people from the left encouraged that and were very happy about that. Obviously, he got banned, but the fact he was able to even get there, to me, shows that there's a demand for that content. There's a demand for that stuff. The same goes for Fresh and Fit and a lot of these other channels where, you know, the actual ideology they're espousing, I would probably disagree with, but I just appreciate the fact they're willing to make jokes that other people are not willing to. I think they're really funny. Unfortunately, a lot of those jokes seem to also have like a lot of sincere belief behind it, which makes me somewhat cautious, trepidatious, makes me somewhat careful around some of those dudes. But at the same time, you know, it will also give way to a lot of really funny, cool stuff that is not like, you know, ideologically driven. And now what's happening is that, you know, sites like Twitch will ban those kind of content creators, and then people are just making their own sites. And it was a meme for the longest time, like, oh, go make your own YouTube, which is obviously impossible. But now you're seeing like Kick and Rumble, who are, you know, more free speech certainly than somewhere like Twitch, at least for now, you know, when they're starting out, because they're trying to get those you know, creators that were banned or are upset with the rules from these kind of websites right over to their site. You're seeing these newer websites compete, you know, actively with Twitch. Are they competing with YouTube? Not as a whole, but they are competing with YouTube streaming. You know, YouTube streaming is not nearly as big as Twitch. I don't think YouTube streaming is even as big as Rumble streamers overall. People just don't stream that much on this website for whatever reason. I think YouTube doesn't focus on it a lot for now. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe because streaming isn't nearly as big of a market as video content, but I think that eventually YouTube will kind of hone in, and my basic prediction is that Twitch will die, Kick and Rumble will feast on its scraps, and eventually YouTube will improve their streaming to the point that they'll just siphon all content creators who were on Kick and Rumble over to their site, and then Kick and Rumble will be left in the dust. That's what I think the like 5 to 6 year kind of game plan is looking like. Do I know that for sure? Do I have like a ton of evidence to back that up? No, not necessarily, but regardless, whatever happens, I'm just interested to watch it go down. That's always how I've been. I've always had that kind of perspective. You know, obviously as someone who likes to make edgy jokes, I'm happy that that's a little bit more culturally acceptable now and you get rewarded for it. But at the same time, you know, I see the downsides to the kind of right-wing renaissance going on right now. All I can be thankful for is the fact that it's very entertaining. I like seeing people argue. I like seeing debate happen. I like seeing, you know, just the other day, there was a debate between Destiny and Nick Fuentes on Fresh and Fit. That feels like kind of a callback to like, you know, 2016-17 debate culture, when you had like Hassan Piker, Asmongold, Nick Fuentes, Trainwrecks, Sargon of Akkad all on the same stream. That did actually happen, and Destiny was there as well. That did actually happen. Look it up. It's a great video. It's kind of a throwback to a simpler time, in my opinion. But it seems like we're getting some of that content now, where, you know, these left-wing content creators are kind of being forced to debate right-wing dudes, which they've been avoiding for a long time. Then what we're gonna have is, over the next few years, we're gonna have, you know, the right-wing guys are gonna blow up. They're gonna get famous again, and then eventually they're gonna turn cringe again. They're gonna have a bunch of dumb infighting, and what's gonna happen is the anti-SJW to right-wing type people, they're all gonna fall off, and then the left wing will come back, and that's just kind of the ebb and flow of things. So I'm here to ride it out. Anyway, yeah, I know this is more of like an unstructured short video. I don't really do these videos a lot anymore. It was more rambly. I didn't write any of this video out, and I wrote the last video I did about this subject out, like, completely. Like, every word was written out, but this one's just totally unscripted. I just sat in front of my microphone in my underwear and rambled for a bit about this subject. Yeah, I think the way the internet's going lately is really interesting. I'm really excited to see what happens with it. I hope you guys are too. Anyway, if you like this video, leave a like. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. And make sure to tell your mom that I said hi. And if you liked this video, consider becoming a member. For $5 a month, you get access to exclusive podcasts, unreleased videos, and the members-only Minecraft server. Thanks so much to all of my YouTube members who fund my content.